So you feel burnout because you studied too much the day before. You feel like taking a break, but you can't because your exam is coming up soon. So even though you're super tired, you open up some practice questions and you start doing them. Each question feels like pushing a boulder up a mountain. You feel worse and everything is telling you to stop. Does this sound like your average studying experience? You may be wondering, is it just me? Does anyone else feel this? Can I stop this feeling? I'm gonna be honest with you. There is no trick you can do to fix this, no magical motivation method to make this all go away. This is a much deeper problem than that, and you know that it is. You must first truly understand why you're feeling like this before you can even start to think about how to fix it. So for the first part of this video, I will tell you the most common reasons students hate studying, so you can see which one or even if all of them applies to you.
I know a lot of you will be guilty for this one, and that is starting too late. Cramming. If you feel like there's too much to study in such a short amount of time, then you've started too late. If you feel like burnout because you studied too much the day before, but you can't stop either because your exam is coming soon, you've started too late. If your study sessions are often hours long and they always end with you feeling horrible, then you've started too late. Starting too late is a problem that majority of students face, so I want you to think carefully if this sounds like you. Each question feels like you're pushing a boulder up a mountain. Every time you finish a question, you have to push yourself so hard to do the next one and the next one and so on. There is no flow state. Sometimes it just feels like the questions don't get easier as you do them. There's a big mental barrier and friction that's stopping you from doing the next question because you know how painful it will be. So naturally, you try to prevent this and you start doing other things. Think carefully if this sounds like you. Every time you study, it usually takes more than 3 hours. You have to sacrifice your hobbies, the things you enjoy. You have to sacrifice your own sleep schedule just for the sake of studying. Of course, this makes you hate studying even more because you'd rather be doing other things. And sitting on your desk for 5 hours isn't the most fun activity, so this leads to procrastination as well. Just think about it. Imagine if you could study everything in just 5 minutes. Would you still procrastinate? I don't think so. So think carefully if this sounds like you. Whenever you study, you have absolutely zero idea of what you're looking at. Either you don't understand the things you've learned in class, or you can't even remember if you've learned it or not. Just looking at the question, it feels like another language and you're already stressing. So this means you have to start learning from square one all by yourself. And that's a lot of work, a lot of discomfort. Naturally, as humans, we don't like discomfort, so you hate studying even more.
So think about those 4 categories. Which one do you think applies to you? Could be one, could be many, but just reflect on it. Now that you know why you hate studying, there is one very important question you must ask yourself. What can I do about it? In the next part of this video, I will be sharing some things that I do. It may not directly cure each one of these categories, but it sure will help you out a lot. And it's very important you actually think which one of these tips applies to you and which one will help you out. If I just give you the answers straight away and tell you what to do, you will not do it. Trust me. So I want you to put in some work too. So anyways, let's get on with the first tip. For every important exam that I have, I set pre-deadlines. So a week before the actual exam date, that will be my pre-deadline. I must be done with everything before the deadline. So for example, my exam is coming up in a month. Instead of making the real exam date my deadline, I will move it up a week. The thing is, I will fully convince myself that this is the real exam. I will convince myself that it is unacceptable to do any studying after my deadline. So most of the time, I finish doing everything at least a week before my exams, and this helps out massively. Whenever I come across a tough topic, it only takes a few questions for me to fully understand it. And this is because I study the model answers. Instead of pushing myself to do questions I definitely cannot answer, I will just open up the mark scheme. I will try to understand every bit of the question, what it is asking me, what it is testing me on, how do I get to the answer, spend time with the question. If I still don't understand it or I still find it tough, then I will look at how others do it. Do this for a few questions and you will start to understand. Then you'll have enough knowledge to start doing practice questions on that topic. So it will feel more flow and more smooth and you'll be able to learn very quickly. I never study if I'm not in a deep work state. So a deep work state is when it's just you and the work, and there's no distractions around you. It is just pure focus. Research shows that people are 500% more effective when they are in a state of deep work. So the way I see it is, if I'm tired and I'm not in my deep work state, instead of spending 5 hours pushing myself to study and barely gaining anything, I would rather use that time to rest. I'd use that time to rest and recharge so I can enter my deep work state later and study the same thing more effectively. The second thing that I do for all of my study sessions is I always have a goal. I know exactly what I'll be studying, how I'll study it. So for example, will I be doing topic questions? What is my end goal? What am I trying to achieve? This makes my study sessions as short and as effective as possible. Right after you've learned something in class, don't let it leave your brain. So a lot of people, when they finally understand something in a classroom, they never think about it again until their exams. And to their surprise, they've already forgotten most of it. So an amazing way to prevent this is by immersing yourself. Keep thinking about what you have studied, especially for the first few days. Here's a thing you can do. Look at your everyday life objects and try to link it to what you're studying. So for example, my bed sheet, which you cannot see, is blue today. You know what else is blue? Water. And water gets transported in the xylem. So now I can start reciting the features of a xylem and try to remember the details that I learned in my lesson. Or instead of doing this, you can just try to remember what you have studied yesterday. What did you study yesterday in maths class? Which part was challenging? This helps you beat the forgetting curve so you can remember what you study in class for a much longer time.